fine, I
Yeah.
Yes, breathing.
Commissioner, are you gonna be a part of this meeting, so we have a quorum or not?
Commissioner Cathway is gonna be here?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's in the meeting right now, but we'll wait until we see if for a quorum.
Have you been part of this?
This one, no. Oh, lots of problems.
I mean,
Meeting to order, Madam Clerk,
Mr. Malloy,
here.
Ms. Frenchco. Here. Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Okay, this is a transportation public meeting, September 25th, starting 1:04. And, I will turn the meeting over now, to Mike Salamone. Mike, I'm gonna let you go ahead and
Okay.
chair from this part down our agenda.
Okay. I would like to thank the commissioners for having this meeting. I would like to thank everybody for coming to this meeting. A quick reason why we're having this meeting, the purpose of this meeting is, Dean Harris with WRTA is here. Presently, we're running a couple routes in the city of Warren. I'll let him talk in a few minutes here. But, the question was, do we want them to continue when these are done sometime in July? And if so, how do we want to fund it? That's really the big,
So is the purpose of the meeting just to talk about that, or talk about transit and transportation as a whole?
we can talk about, if we want, we can still talk about transit as a whole afterwards. But the main part of the meeting will be first about WRTA. And go
Okay.
on from there.
Okay?
So, Dean, like I said, I'm gonna turn this over to you at this point, Dean Harris.
The format of this meeting, just so, if you'd like to talk, make sure you announce who you are every time you talk, and who you represent the first time you talk, but at least who you are the second time. And, make sure we capture that, because we're being videotaped. Mr. Harris.
Sorry, Dean Harris with WRJ, I'm Executive Director. Mike asked me to come and talk about the history of the service we have in Warren and in Trumbull County in general. So, WRJ has run service into the city of Warren from Youngstown with the Warren Express for many years now, very popular route. We also have 3 routes that go into Liberty Township that provides, connection mostly for Youngstown residents to get into Liberty Township because of the Giant Eagle, Walmart, food access, and a good turnaround point for our service. And then in 2020, we were talking and we, looked at what else can we do for the Trumbull County and Warren. So we were able to get a grant in 2020 to fund 4 routes, 6 routes, I think it was, to provide service in the city of Warren, to show, really to show the need for transit. And we were able to continue that for a few years. There were some downtimes. Biggest hurdle initially was right at COVID. It started right at COVID. So we had we had a low ridership numbers for the first few months, but did very well after that. We were getting additional funding, and then we lost funding, got it back. And over the last 4 years, we've had, pretty good service, but it's been slowly being reduced because the amount of money that's been available to us to provide the service has also gotten smaller. Mike's got some numbers I found out specifically, you can actually see the actual details. I've been tracking the, ridership every month since, we started it, just to give, an eye on it, because we want to know too, because we're providing the services. It's not a, easy task for us, because the city of Warren is pretty far from our main hub, so we have a lot of deadhead miles to get the buses here and stuff, so we want to make sure we're providing a service that is needed. So with that, I mean, basically, that's where we're at now, is, this service we have currently is funded technically through March. Depending on how the funding goes, it could go as long as June. I think we'll have enough funding to get to that point, but we'll see. We'll know more as January rolls around in our next, technically December, when our next sign-up starts. We'll have a better idea, because we'll be 6 months through the service. At that point, then I'm here to help Mike, with his proposals and ideas that he may work with up here in Trumbull County. We're here as a resource. We're not here to take over. We're not here to, tell you what to do, but we can tell you what we do and how transit works.
I want to be able to clarify something that,
Commissioner, you gotta announce your name first before you do that, first time you talk.
okay. So I want to be able,
Commissioner Frenchco's talking, go ahead.
I want to be able to clarify clarify for the record that at that point in time, when WRTA began providing those routes, it was after our transit board was disbanded, and there were some issues with, the way transportation was being provided. There was a plan in place at that time where an ODOT knew that there was going to no longer be transportation, and so they provided those grants as sort of a bridge in order to get the county from, previous services that weren't being provided properly, and then give us time to join WRTA. That was the plan, and that didn't end up happening. So that money was never intended to be, permanent. It was only supposed to be for 1 year, but because of COVID and because of the board's reluctance, to join, then they extended it by another year, and then it was a no more situation. Trumbull County has to be responsible. So, wanted to add that clarification.
So, Dean, if you want to continue on with the present funding and routes?
Yeah, I can. So we basically have about 600, exact now, 600,000 and change or something like that. The difference with this grant and the other grants we've had in the past, previous grants were all 100% federal. There was no local match. This current grant is a 50-50 grant with 50% from the federal, 25% from Trumbull County, and 25% from the city of Warren. We have the two routes, one going up Elm, and one going out west.
Funding? Will you explain the funding?
So
The
funding,
reason why it's not,
so the funding is basically, a grant request.
Make a note, Commissioner Cannon Lacey joined us on 111.
What grant is that?
The funding is, was applied to every year from ODOT, and they allocate funds, and they basically, this time, didn't fund the actual operating fund, they did a trade. They provided WRTA with, preventive maintenance funding in exchange for us using other funding, other of our federal funding for operating assistance. And with the work of the Trumbull County Commissioners and the city of Warren, funding local match at 50-50, be able to fund this current year. And again, the two routes, the Elm and the west routes, the Elm is a much, way and above our best route we've got. It has been every year we ran it. Then the west one, it just is there. The Warren Express that connects to them does benefit from those routes. So we saw a little bit of dip when we had a small break between last year and when we started again last year, but the 3 or 4 months we were down. But it's picked up a little bit because of that connection.
Okay. Well, no,
we're not eligible for, funding, so it's the separate, that's what.
So,
If you want to be very clear, so that.
Mr. Dean, so the funding, yeah, WRTA is a designated recipient of federal funds, so we have the ability to apply for funds, like the state, have them transfer funds to us, whereas, Trumbull County at this point does not have the same ability to get those funds.
so,
Who pays for the Liberty routes?
WRTA does.
Because,
For us, it's an endpoint, there's nowhere to really go for those routes, so it makes, sense for us to continue into Liberty Township to hit the stores and then turn around and come back. We only provide the buses, we don't do any infrastructure up there. Liberty Township's asked us to do shelters, we've not been able to do that because it's not in our funded area from the sales tax. I have looked for federal money for them, but so far the state has not, provided any funding for shelters or benches in Liberty Township. And then Warren Express, was funded by a CMAQ grant originally. Because of how successful it is, we've continued that on without the federal funding. It does provide a service to the citizens of Youngstown and Warren County.
so that money comes from where then?
Some sales tax and technically some federal money we have money.
You gonna see that?
Originally was CMAQ. Not for that route, no. Then we have some capital money that's called preventive maintenance, that's used for maintenance. have some federal money mixed into that.
Staying with the fixed routes, I know Warren Express is like your second or third best route? Third best route, yeah. And looking at the other two, so what I have done, from when this is started, inception till now, the, Elm Road route has gone up 804 trips or 76%, whereas, and the other one has gone up 569 trips or 86%. So they both have really kind of had a steady increase. And, Dean, if I'm not mistaken, most, the Elm Road route was like 2,000 something.
I believe 20.
2,319,
I mean,
July,
yeah,
not this past one.
okay, thank you. So, I mean, so you can see this has been a steady increase in these routes. And even, there's another form that, Dean gave me, going back to when these routes started, it's been a steady increase even from that point. So, this has been the problem is we started, it started, then you COVID, started, then we stopped for a couple of months, and I started back up again. And that, when you keep doing that, you lose ridership. And again, that's really kind of what this meeting's for, is so we can hopefully make some type of a decision, then maybe to keep them running past either May or July.
Do we have any idea how many of these riders on the Elm or Northwest are Warren residents versus county residents? Any demographics on that?
They're all county residents. Basically, there's really no housing when you get past the Dairy Queen on Elm Road. So the odds are, it's all of Warren.
I would concur.
Right, that's the odds. No.
But we don't know if people pick up the Warren Express in Niles or other places, then come to Warren
Oh,
to
sure.
shop and do this, or are part of these people? I mean, do we know that, or we're just guessing, or do we have any facts?
That's possible.
Commissioners, I actually know that for a fact. I've talked to
I think
some,
it's fine.
I'm not sure who this is, what that says. I've actually talked to some of the drivers, because I'm right there, and I do know there are people that get off the Warren Express, go on other ones downtown, so it's a combination.
We don't know how many, though.
No,
There's if
I don't know how
it's 10,
many, no.
500,
It
we
could
don't
be
know.
1, it could be 20, but I mean, I do know, I've talked to some of the drivers, and
Okay.
they say, yeah, there are drivers that go from the Warren Express, or vice versa, and again, because of where my office is at, I'll see them crossing the street, going from one to the other.
So we can safely say this is predominantly Warren residents riding these routes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to speak, like, anecdotally as a rider.
What's your name?
Yes, my name's Robin Perry, I work with Health Community Partnership. I don't have a car, so I ride the bus. I do live in Youngstown, but one of our offices for my work is here at Wright in Warren. I've talked to plenty of other riders. The really popular stops that I see people get off at a lot are like the mall, and obviously down here in Warren, in the square, that's where I get off. You do see a lot of Warren residents, with bikes getting onto the bus here. I've talked to residents who are really worried when the bus stopped, servicing in some of these areas that were going from the Warren Express to another route that stopped. People aren't getting on. I've talked very recently to an older woman who lives in Warren, who my son wasn't able to come get her when she had gotten off the Greyhound after going on a trip for a vacation. She took the Warren Express down to a street near her neighborhood in Warren, and I helped her figure out where she could get off. There are people who definitely are riding to get home, who are riding to go shopping, who are riding to get to school, to work. They live here, and they do need these routes. We've had plenty of organizations come to us and say that they have folks that they can't get to job interviews because buses stopped in areas that they couldn't get to them, and they had no way to provide transportation as an organization because they provided help with finding employment, but they did not provide transportation. That's at least what I'm hearing and what I see as someone who rides every day. like I do come here. I don't live here, but there are people who live here that are definitely using these routes. That's anecdotal, but
Okay. Before I go to the next question, just one thing I would like to bring up, and I was hoping Matt Martin would have been here, but he's not. And I don't know if two of you know it, and Dean, maybe you can step in at this point regarding the shelter that they're putting in. And, okay. They're putting it, going,
Well, I've been contacted, casually about that. I haven't brought anything yet to the board
right,
because they haven't really made a substantial ask, but there has been talk, at least about, the commissioners assisting with some shelters for, with ARPA money.
okay.
But again, none of that's been finalized. They haven't filed an application. If and when they do, we'll welcome that.
Right.
going
As
to
maybe-
be over by Walmart, because I know that there was a need for something at Walmart.
Okay,
Is that the location?
the location they're actually putting one in at is, right downtown here on High Street.
Okay,
They're gonna put it on the same side as where the art building is,
Right.
and then they're doing a, mural on the wall, on the building.
And again, these were
That's,
preliminary conversations I
Right.
had. I'm sure they're gonna be, furthered in the future, but,
yeah,
this was them just thinking of,
right,
initial plans and is there ARPA money available? I
Right.
urge them to come to speak to the commissioners. They have yet to
They
do
have
that, but I'm
right.
sure they will.
but like I said, I've talked to them, I've talked to Matt, and I've talked to people there, and I thought they had the money for the shelter here. That's what.
They do, but they need some assistance.
Right.
Not for the entire thing, but
But for the rest of it, yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up there, let everybody know about it. That, there are places that they're actually putting money into the system so we can continue to grow it. So maybe we'll get some more shelters. That's the part I don't know. And so we're on number 5 right now. And
With the present routes, last question on
okay,
that.
yeah,
After we took that bus ride, I had called and talked to Mr. Harris, talked to some other people. We had an extremely long stretch when we took the Northwest 73 route, up Todd Avenue, through a private neighborhood, all the way around and over to the Giant Eagle, or the plaza on Parkman Road, where we didn't pass any people. We were this close to Jamestown Village, where there's a whole bunch of people and restaurants and businesses, and instead of going across through a private neighborhood, we could've went past Jamestown Apartments that has 2,000 residents in apartments. A lot of them don't have cars. And I asked, can we modify the route to make the route actually go by people, where people are gonna ride it? Has that changed at all? Will they modify that route at all?
So we reviewed that, and the time of the route doesn't give us enough time to get up there and back down to the Sparkle Market. So at this point, there's not enough.
So we'd rather pick up a couple people at Sparkle and a handful of people out there and drive 12 minutes through a neighborhood and up a place where there's nobody, instead of extending a little bit of time and actually picking up people where there could be a lot of riders. So is it about moving the bus, keeping the bus moving, or is it about moving people?
Well, it's always about transferring people, but it's about how much time we have to move that bus to get to the people.
Right, but if the bus is getting paid, as long as the bus is moving, there's grant money coming in and WRTA is making money.
It's not quite that way.
It just seems like, why would you leave all those people?
It's,
And it just, I was scratching my head, like, I can almost see people at Giant Eagle Plaza, and we make a left turn through a neighborhood and don't even go there. And then I can see through the neighborhood, all the apartments on the next street, where there's just people living there in apartments, and why wouldn't we do that extra little jog and actually go to a place where people are? It seemed to me like it was more about, let's keep this bus moving.
well, again, we have so much time to run the route, and it didn't fit into the amount of time we had. We would've ran out there and would have to turn around before we even got through the whole route.
there are also other neighborhoods that could use some assistance as well.
Yeah.
I'm from that area, the west side and the north end. And so going out North Park, up Comstock, right on the Honing, through Jamestown, you can get over to Parkman Road to get to those services and then do a loop that way. That's something to consider, I think, because it might take twice as long, but there would be the ability to pick up pick up from areas like he's saying. I know that there's another, population over on the north end that would benefit from that. So if it was possible to,
Again, if we had the money to provide
right,
more hours of service, we could.
service
Right
hours.
now, because of the Elm route takes, technically supposed to be half hour, actually takes a little longer than that.
How long does
You can't adjust the time to pick people up? That's what I mean, your bus is moving anyway,
If you adjust the time, you gotta adjust the whole route,
okay?
not just that one spot.
So what is,
Okay.
So do you cut off Walmart at the other end?
I think adjusting the time frame to actually pick bodies up instead of keeping a big 50-passenger bus moving, just keep it moving, it just makes sense. If we're gonna pay for people moving, let's move people,
Right, but again, not quite that easy.
okay? Well, I'm just telling you, I saw a stretch where we left Warren, and we went 12 minutes and never picked a body up, never saw a body, never saw a bus stop, and we were literally driving through someone's neighborhood where people, it's a residential neighborhood with sidewalks and where buses should not go.
buses,
As you can see by the route, that goes out that way is definitely not the best, but it is growing.
I wonder why.
Yeah, it's also our, of the two routes, it's also the shorter of the two, so.
Janet Hazelton, the route you're talking about, last year, it did that, because you had 4 routes, and it was called the North Route. And I saw people get on and off of it, and it went up to the plaza, and it did all
Right.
this. But right now, you have 2 routes. You have
So
to
is this to
separate
strangle
that.
us and maybe go to 4 routes now and get more money, and hey, we'll get them if you give us more money? Hey, we can go to Giant Eagle and buy the phone, let's give us more money.
you pay for
Is that what this is?
The reality is time, whether you, I mean, it just is. And if you know, people get on, you have to decide, do they not wanna go up to Trumbull Plaza that far? That, you would have to compromise something, but there was a route last year
Sure.
that did exactly what you wanted to do.
And that's probably the next route already in the plans, if they could get more money.
You know, let me
Yeah, but-
clarify something for the record. WRTA does not have to extend services to Liberty. They don't have to extend services with the Warren Express. They don't have to do any of those things outside of Mahoning County. So I would be thankful and approach WRTA with a little more decorum and respect, because they don't have to do anything for us, and I'm grateful that they are.
They're getting paid, one way or another, they're not doing it for free. It's not coming out of anyone's salary to do that.
They're getting, okay.
I just wanted to say, I'm gonna give a little speech here. The Warren Express route, right now it's pretty close to exactly the way it was in 2019, before the other stuff was extended. In 2019, the total ridership was 91,777. This year, it will more than double that. More than double, and it's the same route. So people need rides. People are using the rides. The Elm Road is approaching what it was before the break. And there have been 2 breaks since these routes started, not just one. There were 2 breaks. So twice, you've had to try to ramp up a ridership again, which is a challenge. And I also want to say that mentioned this to Diane, and it's not just that, but the service the county provides now for the senior levy, which I love, is public transportation. Public calls, I could call and get a ride. There are limitations, but there are also limitations with WRTA, which Dean can tell you. If you are able-bodied and you live within a distance of a fixed route, you can't call door to door. You have to apply to get the ADA service. It's a different thing, you have to have an application. So there are limits on it. But you right now are providing public transit, and the mindset of the fact that people don't refer to it as that is wrong. It's public transportation. Same way the fixed route is public transportation. And that needs to be thought of that way.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to say yes.
I didn't get a
Because
restroom break and I have to go, my,
Okay.
not to get too.
I think,
My prostate isn't the same it was.
TMI, TMI.
Yeah, I think that the general public is what there's a hard time with. And when we talk about senior and disabled, whereas I agree with you, it's still public transportation, and it would take, shift the burden from senior levy. And if we were to have general public transportation, because those riders would be able to use WRTA services. I've had calls, letters from people who are senior citizens, and just because you're eligible for senior citizen, right, you know, doesn't mean that, just because you're eligible for a senior ride, doesn't mean that you wanted to have someone pick you up in the car and take you to one place and take you back. There are seniors who one of the letters was from a senior citizen who said that they want the routes back because they would meet together with their girlfriends and they would go shopping. They would spend the day together on the bus, going to different locations in Trumbull County, and sometimes even go over to Mahoney.
Do you want people in Champion, Howland, Bristol, Newton Falls, and Hubbard to pay for that so this lady could visit her girlfriends and shop?
No,
She wants to
I think
pay-
that you're missing, what I'm saying is that the people in that community and those communities are still paying with their property taxes, which is higher, for senior and disabled public rides. And if this service were there, they would be able to preserve, their property taxes. And there are implications associated.
So you wanna get rid of the senior levy?
We wanna make sure that it doesn't continue to increase. I want that. So there are other benefits to people in Champion and other townships from public transportation, and that is all clearly published in APTA statistics, and some of that shows, the economic impact and jobs that, locate to communities where someone in a township may not have an opportunity to have their family member work somewhere, but for the fact that that industry came because there's a transportation service. So those are things that are also considered, and we have a problem that's at large in Trumbull County that we've seen. And that relates to population retention and we've got organizations, our economic development groups, say that they're hiring people, but call people back to get them to move back to Trumbull County. And if you follow statistics, you'll also see that the younger populations prefer to live places where there is public transportation. So when you follow the population patterns and you see where people are leaving and moving to, younger people, they're moving and staying and situating in areas where there is transportation available. People don't want to buy cars, they can't afford to buy cars, and they just prefer not to prioritize that as an expense. And in communities where they're successful at retaining population, they have transportation. And in communities where they are successful with economic development, they have population. Those are two correlations that don't exist here, that we don't have in Trumbull County, which points to the fact that it's absent as a reason for our failure to thrive in the population retention and economic development area.
I just wanted to say that I pay my property tax on time every year, and I have never used anything from the senior levy, and I'm happy to pay for it here in Warren. So if somebody in Champion, I'm paid for them. If they're calling for I'm helping pay for them.
Thank you.
It's a shared responsibility.
I just wanna hit on Warren Express one more time. I've got some numbers that being put together. Starting in 2020, Warren Express did 53,000. In 2021, it was 63,978. 2022 is 112, $353. 2023, $155,400, and right now, we're already at $125,000. So that's telling you the type of growth that's happened in 5 years, the Warren Express. So it's not something that grows overnight, it does take time for these to grow.
Every time there is a stop and a start with a route, it affects the reliability of it, in the user's mind, in the writer's mind. So that's why when you look at the Warren Express and you see those numbers are similar to what would happen throughout the county should there be an actual consistent service. And absent that, that's why it's stop impacts the reliability for the user.
Do you have plans on stopping the Warren Express?
Well, that's my next question.
No, I do not.
No, the Warren Express.
Then Warren Express is taken
Right,
care of,
take care,
it's
right,
covered.
yeah.
It's a moot point for
Right.
the county to get involved in that.
So,
I think the point, let me, for clarity, the point I was trying to make is the reason why their route has that ridership is because they've been stable and consistent. And because we don't have that consistency with the Elm Road, the Northwest route, everything, stop and start, questionable, that's why the ridership is lower. So had those routes been there for years, you'd see an increase that's commensurate to what, Dean has, and WRTA has on the Warren Express. To explain that, the link there.
I understand there's a couple of people on the phone, we wanna take them now, or I can take them later after the discussion.
Were we at the open discussion part already? Are we
Right.
done with everything?
No, we haven't done the open discussion yet, so we
Okay.
can do that with open discussion. Well,
Well, so we're not gonna do the designate funding
no, that's the
sources?
next, the next thing.
Okay, we had open discussion number 6, after.
No, we haven't had open discussion, we're just, so right now, we're still on number 5.
Right, so open discussion is next, number
Right.
6.
So, we'll do that in a few minutes. So the next one is number 5, future routes, future funding, and how do we, sustain the funding? So, Dean, I guess I'm gonna put you on the spot here. If the funding is available, would you continue past June or July of next year?
If we were asked to continue, we probably would, yes.
Okay,
And I'll make it clear, because I hear we're looking for money, we're not, we're here to provide service. We need the money to provide this service, so we don't get the funding, we're gonna drop the service. If you do the service, it's up to you if you want us to do it or not. We've been able to conduit money to you to provide the service, and that's why we're involved. If you don't wanna go through us for funding, do this, any service you want on your own. So just be clear, we're not here to come, we're not out here with hands looking for money.
Make money off of these routes.
Yeah, we,
Please
we,
clarify.
yeah, we do not make money off these routes.
Right.
We charge what it costs us to run these routes, just so it's clear.
Huge
and your fares are still free?
Again, separate issue, but yes, our fares.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying, those
Right,
fares are.
0 cost to the rider.
Right,
Yeah.
because they pay a tax, so why should they pay twice?
A tax on what?
Sales tax. So why should they pay twice? So make people go, please come to your house to help you, you don't get charged, art comes, you don't get charged. So we're funded the same, not the same way, but similar way.
Yeah.
We shouldn't charge people to use a service that they're already paying taxes on. Similar to your example of someone in Champaign not paying for service for someone else, but just shared service. And I feel that
Never know
very
when you're
strongly.
gonna need it. And you, that's true, you also never know when you're going to need it.
But again, just to be clear, we're not here for handout for money. We're here to assist you if you want us to provide transportation.
So I've got 2 questions, and I'm really for the commissioners at this point. If we can come up with the funding, be it how we're doing it now or other ways, are we willing to work with Dean for the next one?
If it's the same type of deal and Warren meets at least half of it, I think it's more of a Warren issue. But if Warren meets at least half of it at the rate where we're at right now, I'm okay with the 150 to keep it going. Anything above and beyond that, I wouldn't be.
I agree, I think that you can, they've demonstrated substantial growth, obviously, we can see that, the numbers bear that out, so. And a lot of people have been relying upon this. I would be fine proceeding and moving it forward, obviously.
Other question I have, to, go after funding and to try to get sustainable funding, you actually need a designated funding source. And I was hoping, Bill Danza would have been down here, but he was not, because we have talked about that. What I would like to do, I would like to come back with you beginning of the year or whenever, and talk to you about possibly putting together an RTA, Regional Transit Authority, for this area.
Would that make us eligible for those federal funds?
The RTA would be able to apply for those funds, yes.
Oh,
Well,
for designation.
Designation,
Right.
okay, all right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me finish, then you can
Fine.
finish. A Regional Transit Authority, that's the reason I was hoping Bill would be here, but I've already talked to Bill. He will help me, and we will work together to get the legalities of everything together. What I do know about an RTA, and Dean, since you're an RTA, you want to step in, but I know they can do bonds, sales tax, and property tax.
They have,
The
they're almost the same authority as a city or.
Mhm.
The other thing with an RTA, that I was reading on, and that's, again, that's why I want Bill here. If we wanted to do the RTA as commissioners and City of Warren, you can do that. Fine with them, or you could do it with other states or other townships.
Or you could do it with WRTA.
So that's another thing
Which
too.
actually has expertise
Right,
in
so
providing the
if-
services.
The one thing I'm looking at here that sticks out to me,
Hang on, 'cause at that point, if there is going to be separate RTA, what would you be expecting, you know, WRTA to contract? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
again,
this is,
you would have an RTA board, and they would be the ones making the decision how they wanna do things,
yeah, just,
instead of the commissioners doing
and
it.
it was an absolute failure with the, transit board, and I wouldn't expect to see it any differently if
Okay.
Trumbull County were doing it on their
I
own.
mean, what I'm looking at here is we paid $600,000 for these two routes, right?
Mhm.
300,000 grant, 150 from us, 150 from City of Warren. We had 12,866 riders through 6 months. If we double that, and we get 24,000 riders in those two routes, we're still paying $25 per ride out of the money we did. $25 for every ride that we're giving, for someone to go from Elm Road, or from here to Elm Road, $25. I guarantee you an Uber would be about $9 to get from
No.
Warren, City of Warren to,
No, Uber's closer to
Bezetta.
50.
$50 from Warren to get there per ride?
Uber costs anywhere between.
You think it's right, we're paying $25 out of taxpayer dollars to give a guy a ride from here to Bezetta?
That's how much
It's a-
senior levy rides are.
supply
That's
demand
an
issue.
average rate.
And this is, there's
But in what world is that,
not a lot of competition.
does that even make
in this
financial
area.
fiscal sense that we're gonna pay
I mean,
$25
when's
a
the last time you tried to
ride?
get an Uber
Yeah.
in Warren or this area?
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
other,
I'm sure if you have that many riders, a business could pop up at $600,000.
Here's the other problem with the Uber drivers. They don't have the clearance, security clearance to be transporting public
Well,
people
you
safely.
wouldn't be
You don't
able
know what
to-
you're getting.
You wouldn't be able to use any type of public funds because there's so many policies and,
So someone takes a ride from Warren to Bezetta and Bezetta back to Warren, that's $50. And they do it every day
you understand?
for 5 days, that's $250 a week out of taxpayer dollars we're paying?
How do you think it should be paid for, Denny? Out of what?
I don't think you should be paid for it at all. It's $250 that I'm gonna pay for someone 5 days a week to get to and from their work or wherever they are. I'm gonna pay taxpayer dollars or take taxes out of the people in Champion and take taxes out of the people in Hartford and the rest of the county and Lordstown to give someone a ride to pay $250 for them to get to and from,
Do you think?
5 days a week?
Do you fundamentally believe that that people should have?
That's $1,000 a month.
Do you
We could buy them a car for less of a payment than that.
So,
but
okay,
the
so you're,
problem with
hang
buying.
on, I'm sorry, I'm talking.
No, I'm
So-
sorry,
so-
go on, finish
so-
talking now.
Okay, so, one, do you believe that there should not be general public transportation to get people to and from work 5 days a week? I'm asking you that question.
I believe in the city that we live in, with Warren's demographics, we're not one of the top 7 largest cities in the state anymore. We're down more toward number 13 in the state. We're not a Cleveland, Akron, where there's a metropolitan area where you can live within a microcosm without having a
Right,
vehicle.
so the question.
We're separate than that.
Which actually means that there's a greater need for transportation because the population is not the population is more sparse, it's more spread out across the county. We have a center, but Wardstown wanted us to provide transportation so that Lordstown could get their employees there. Instead, we're giving jobs to.
Where's Lordstown in a meeting? I've never seen a Lordstown official one time in a meeting in 2 years come here to anything.
Instead,
Where are they today?
people are coming from Mahoning County and getting jobs in Trumbull County because they actually provide services. So that's been an ongoing issue. There are people all over the county that do need access. I know that our business community has said that the number one reason that they have people not showing up for work or call-offs is because of their cars breaking down, car trouble. And let me just, one more thing that really needs to come up, and as it relates to our hospital situation over at Trumbull and the possibility that we had with the closure notices of people having to go, people who would have to then go to Mahoning County for primary care physicians, to visit loved ones in the hospital because they're not doing inpatient. There is no general public transportation that would take anyone regionally over to St. Elizabeth or to a hospital to see someone who has a loved one in the hospital. Do we have people here?
And now he wants to provide rides to our residents to go out of the county to visit people. What's that gonna cost?
Let me explain that if you do an RTA that is only Trumbull County, the world pretty much drops off after Trumbull County. So if you were to have a regional transit authority and a capability, of having that with a regional transit, which would include Mahoning County, that would then allow people to get to St. Elizabeth, to get to another place in Mahoning County that they may then need to go because of the doctor situation. We have to be able to look at this with a large scope to see the impact on our community from not having transportation. And it can be devastating not to be able to get to Mahoning County in absence of a hospital that's up in the air.
One thing I wanted to point out is the fact that I have the July numbers, and Diane can tell me this. For the, senior, it was 3,303 rides in that month. That's what I got from Mike.
Okay.
And in August, the WRTA routes were 3,083. The WRTA routes are only 5 days a week.
5 days,
Senior levy is 6 days a week.
can be.
So you can so what you're getting at is those two routes are providing the same number of rides as the county is providing every month.
Right, but we're taking care of our seniors and our disabled with them.
Yeah.
We're taking care of someone
Yeah,
that doesn't want to get a job, or doesn't have a job enough to buy a car, or doesn't want a car.
Okay, we're gonna stop right there. She has a job.
Okay?
She comes to every day.
Does she choose not to buy a car, or she can afford a car with her
It
job?
doesn't matter. It's her personal business. Maybe she can't afford it, maybe she can't drive, maybe she has a sight issue that she can't do that. Maybe she can't drive for.
If she had a sight issue, would she qualify under disability?
Like I tell you, I have used WRTA and I own 2 cars. So it's.
So you choose for our taxpayers to pay $25 for you to get one way somewhere instead of use your own car. You
No,
choose for the
my
taxpayers to
car
pay
was in the
$50
shop.
instead of in your
My car
car.
was in the shop,
Okay?
so I used WRTA. You shouldn't insult people who are going to work. I know of someone whose car, they wrecked, my friend was telling me, and they lived on the west side. They worked at Menard. They took the bus to Menard, and they got a ride home, because anybody knows it's easier to get a ride from work than to work, because you're in a hurry, everybody's in a hurry to get to work, but you can usually get somebody to bring you home, and it was late at night. That person did that for a week while their car was being repaired. Otherwise, they would have trouble getting to work. It is an illusion that everybody that gets on the bus is homeless and lazy.
Well, I didn't say homeless, I said chose not to. So instead of a person buying a taxi to get to their work, or calling a friend, or paying a friend to take them there, You want a taxpayer to pay $50 to get them to work and back.
I'm telling you that as ridership increases, the cost per ride goes down. We have never given these worn routes
Kind of like
the chance
water and.
to get to full ridership because we keep having breaks in service. So the numbers you're seeing aren't even fully reflecting the need.
But they're still real numbers, that's what we're
No.
paying.
They're
No,
real
they're not.
numbers.
Oh, we're not
But they're
paying
not-
$50 a ride?
They're not potential numbers.
They don't have the potential, but they're real today.
They keep.
We're not, are we getting reimbursed for that money then? Is that what you're saying?
Once
Okay.
you start like this, you can't communicate
No,
with them.
I'm just telling you that as I told you before, I pay I've paid property tax for 40 years. And since the day the senior levy started, I paid property tax. I could call for a ride tomorrow, and I would not do that because it would take a ride from somebody else. But I have a legal right to do that. And I'm not doing that. And I am happily paying that someone who needs to get that ride can get that ride. The same way I pay, if I buy something in Mahoney County, I'm paying a little bit of sales tax, that somebody there can get a ride that needs a ride. And it's.
There are also people who, for whatever reason, will not qualify for disability, but are able to work, but are also not allowed to drive.
Insurance on a car is ridiculous.
Well, no, I'm talking about, like, medically. You can have a situation, there are a lot of health situations where you're not able to drive because you might be taking certain medication or whatever it is, or, you know, you had something with your eyes, but you can still get to do your work. And there's an assumption that's being made here that I think you should apologize for, quite frankly, that people who need transportation are not trying to not trying to better themselves or take care of themselves. This is like it's embarrassing to have a commissioner regard the population as you just have today.
If somebody wants to get to YSU to go to school, it's hard to pay for a car,
Better
and
than
insurance, and tuition. You don't wanna give them a loan, you don't wanna pay for their loan, but you have to, all of those things enrich society. And like you said, if people wanna visit their elderly brother, that's good for the world. It's good for those people. It's what you want in this world. And if that's how they have to do it, that's how they can get there. Otherwise, they don't get there. As Diane can tell you, loneliness is the biggest problem we have. And people being able to see other people, even if you're lonely and you go to the mall, you don't know anybody, and you sit there and you buy something there, which you're paying some sales tax, you're enriching, you're making it better because you're better. And I just think it's in a,
In my opinion, and I just wanna say, I guess it would be myself. When I was a young person, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to advance myself professionally, and I didn't have a car. I had to borrow my grandpa's car to get to a friend's house who had a reliable car in order to get to and from Town State. I had to schedule classes around other people, and it's so difficult.
But you found a way. You found a way and you did it, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't do it? You didn't graduate from college?
It was really difficult, and there were
Try to-
times that I was.
Yeah, let's try to rein this back
Can we
in.
get back on
No,
track?
wait, no,
Commissioner.
this is valid. There were times that I wasn't able to get to work, because I lived on the north end, and I worked at
Okay.
I worked at Burger King downtown. I had to walk to and from work, and sometimes you couldn't do it. Some people have health problems. You really,
Okay.
I had to sit and watch when these routes got closed down. I was at Bombay Curry, watching people work at Burger King, reminding me of myself, getting to and from, on and off the bus in order to get to work. It's sad and it's inhumane not to provide a basic service that advances the economy and our community and provides people with dignity and the ability to work.
Okay, so where do you propose we get the money?
Okay, can I?
Oh, we're talking about funding
No,
source.
no, I know, so let's.
I wanna know where she proposes to get the
Well,
money.
no, that's,
We all understand the issue.
right.
Where does she suppose we get the money?
Okay, can I, how about, let me answer that, okay?
Okay, Mike?
All right, that's where I would like to come back with an RTA, a Regional Transit Authority. Regional Transit Authority can go out and go for a bond, go for sales tax, go for a property tax. That's what you're gonna have to do.
Tax the taxpayers to pay for it.
Wait, let me. If we want to get funding from the government, to get the federal money, you have to have a designated funding source.
Right.
A designated funding source is something that's established and will not go away.
And that would just be our voters voting on it, not Mahoney County
Correct.
voters for our own RTA.
Correct.
How much money, for the record, are we losing as a result of not having a designated recipient?
Off the top of my head, I really don't know. I mean,
Dean?
Dean, what do you get, 500,000?
Yeah.
What do you get?
So federal money, depends on the size of the transit. The urbanized area gets about 3 million of federal money. And
Right.
That's just dedicated.
We've been
That's
Would we be
losing
splitting
that.
it with you
We've
then?
been
It's
losing,
like allocation.
but we've been losing that much funds every year because no one wants to do anything to.
No, he said that we would have to split it with him.
Right, we would,
So it
there's
isn't
a
that much
formula,
And then there's state funding, and then
and then there's state.
discretionary funding too.
Well,
Yeah.
there's also additional funding. I know Sherrod Brown had, some initiatives. Anytime there's additional funding, coming from the federal government in order to help with transportation, it is only available to designated recipients.
Right.
So every time there is an additional millions of this or millions of that injected into public transportation, we are automatically disqualified.
So to get called,
That happened a couple years ago too, because there was an announcement made at, I saw Sherrod Brown at your.
so to get qualified, that's what an RTA would have to do, is pass something that would be solid, that they could go to, and then do that. So that's where I would like to come back to this group sometime after this election, sometime first of the year, with,
After the election.
and come back and, with what an RTA could actually do, but I would work with Bill Danzo on that, so.
And we have a situation right now.
So, that's basically it, what we're done right now. I know there's a couple of people on the phone, so I would like to open up, open discussion, and I'd like to start with the phone at least, for open discussion.
Hello, Carl Clemens.
Oh.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, guys, finally got through a little bit. I really would have liked to been here today, but the old mule had, just had surgery and, incapacitated. But there are so many good ideas in this room, and everybody, and Denny, I really wish you would open your mind just a little bit, and instead of, I am as frugal as you are, but we're not going to have anybody demonize anybody else and make this thing work. That's the problem with the country, the county, and the state today. Transportation is about connecting people and places. Dean Harris is not the enemy here. Dean Harris is somebody that's willing to do what he has to do. We need to devise a plan. I believe, and I have been working with Michael and Bill Dansel on this RTA, and the problem with the RTA doesn't have to be a problem. The problem with the transit board that failed is because the commissioners failed it because they didn't have enough knowledge to go ahead and put board members on. They let the ex-contractor put his people on. It was dead in the water. Now, forget all the past. That's a bunch of poppycock right now. What we need to do is come together. Guys, what do we want? Dean has stated it what do you guys want me to do? I'm not forcing you to. And if you ask the federal government If you ask the state government, ODOT, it is a local decision. We are failing right now to come up with an idea or get to the point where, come on, guys, how can we make this better? How can we maximize our funding and come up with, okay, we're funding. It doesn't mean we need to add funding. It means at the end, when we come up with an equation, we come up with an equation that is taken from one place, putting it to another, but it's actually given money back. We can do it, guys. Don't turn this negative, turn this positive, because transportation is about a connection. And I have been on this connection thing for a long time, and transportation connects people and places, and the people and the places are the businesses that we need, and everybody get on. Me and Janet Haslam have not seen totally eye to eye. I respect her so much, and I believe she respects me. How do we come up with a plan together? That's all we got to do.
All right, Carl. All right, thanks, Carl. Who else is?
Yeah, I just had to get that in, because the technology has not worked for me in the commissioners' meetings in the last 3 months. So, but I appreciate the words, and I hope everybody's doing good. And guys, just be careful, because man, once my hip heals, I don't want to put my foot someplace it don't belong.
All right, Carl, catch you later.
Another one?
Who's next? Bernie Bell? Oh, that was the only one? Okay.
Yeah, I talk.
Your name?
David McGrath, Sunset Transportation, Asheville County Transportation System. I would just like to say, WRTA, I'm sure Dean does a great job, and it's a lot more complicated than a lot of people know. What we specialize in, Asheville County was kind of in the same boat. We do all their job and family services, their senior levies, we do their 10 fixed route system. We do all their door-to-door service, we do their BDD. We have 48 vehicles out at all times in Asheville County. We also do their school systems and other things as well. But we specialize in saving money. We specialize in software. We specialize in cost-effective, being more efficient, getting the right vehicles at the right time, changing the route systems. We also just added after hours, which now we're transporting after hours for education and employment. But really what we specialize in is figuring out a way to do it more efficiently for less money. But we would love a chance to look at things as well sometime in the future for anything. But that is what we do for Asheville County. We do a lot of Lake County as well. They have their own transit system for obviously the other things, but we do a lot of, wheelchairs. We're one of the biggest wheelchairs in Northeast Ohio.
Who's your RTA up there?
Lake Tran.
Lake Tran is for
Lake Tran.
Lake County, Asheville County. And, we work real close with the county commissioners of Asheville County, and we just pass the after hours. And we're good at thinking outside the box. It's very hard when you're a government system to think outside the box and be able to buy specialized vehicles that would make it more, you can be quicker, if you don't have a 55 bus system and stuff like that. So there is different vehicles out there, and they do cost a lot of money, but, there is ways to make it more efficient and more economical, so.
Diane Jakovic, I have a question. Where does your funding come from? Are you contracting with these different agencies, or?
Yes, we contract with them. We do a lot of the ODOT funds. For ACTS, I do believe they're on a local match of 50/50, so they do the local match plus ODOT as well. Obviously, we have all the insurances, the safety protocols, everything, is what it is. BDD, we contract with them. Job and Family Services, we contract with them as well.
So who's the designated recipient of federal funds in Ashtabula County?
ACTS would be the designated recipient.
What is that?
Asheville County Transportation System.
They're a
So it's an
subsystem of
RTA?
the state. No, they're like a rural property that they go through the state. They're not a designated recipient. The state is, they're a sub-recipient.
Okay.
And we run their fixed route system for them, but we run it under ACTS, and Sunset Transportation ran under ACTS, so they can get their matches of money and other things as well.
Anybody else? Okay. So, I will get together with Bill Danzo, get some information regarding the RTA and come back sometime after November with some other plans. But as of right now, Dean, I think he can, maybe start looking at maybe some other routes or whatever, then come back with the two routes or maybe another route.
Again,
Price, yeah,
we can look at them
and prices at that time to see.
and whatever you
And
wanna look at.
And I will say that, in the meeting that Michael and I had with the state when the grant ran out, the state is willing to work with us.
Yeah.
We have to demonstrate a plan and we have to demonstrate growth. And we've done that.
Done that.
We've done that. We've started small and we've gotten a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, and they are still willing to work with us.
Yeah.
They proved that in this last go-around.
Yeah.
And I think, to Carl's point, when you talk about, you know, it has, I guess we're all in this mode that it has to be all or nothing. And I'm not of that opinion. I respectfully disagree with some people that are. I'd like to see this type of growth and then make sure that we're making the right financial decision to accommodate it. So this is a good start, and I think we can build on it, put it that way. And I think we're demonstrating that we're advocating for competition with our senior levy. That's driven down the cost of pricing. We're adding fixed routes, slowly and incrementally, but we see the growth and we see that there's a future there. But I just don't like to throw money at something without knowing all the facts, and I think this is giving us a clearer picture, put it that way, so.
Yeah, I mean, we could possibly have something like Axe down here, right?
Yeah. Just one last thing I wanna throw out here at this point. With what we're doing with the senior levy, we're projecting about 39,000 trips,
Yes.
give or take. With your route, the WRTA, I'm projecting around 20,000.
That's with the Warren Express?
No,
Okay,
no, well, just those two routes.
okay.
So we're between 50 and 60,000 trips between the two. Where I'm coming from with this is when we were under the old system, they were always doing about 50 or 60,000. We're at that now after only a year or two.
And they were doing quote-unquote general transportation.
Yeah.
But we're just throwing seniors into
How much did that cost us
a lot more money.
compared to the
Um,
600,000
it was
plus at one
costing,
point?
well, at that point,
60 a ride?
it was costing around,
60
Yeah.
now.
well, right now, it's closer to 30. It's costing 31, 32,
One way.
But there were different funding sources,
one way,
not that
One
it
way.
matters, but
one way.
the
There
local
was-
source wasn't being expended.
More local match and more
There was.
federal match
Yeah.
There was.
doing half the transportation.
Right.
Yes.
The contractor.
Right, so I'm
All
just
systems.
throwing this out, that, you
They
know,
don't provide the services. That's the difference between what there was before. The name of the game before was, you know, contractor provides low services, contractor gets to keep more money because it was a individual on the van thing. Now with this type of, situation, the more people who ride, the lower the cost, sort of like how our utilities work, so forth. You know, the more customer base, the less the, anyway.
right. So, I mean, that's why I just wanna, because I always come to you every month, give you numbers, so I will be giving you exact numbers. But I just wanted to let you know ahead of time that, you know, we're definitely growing. Senior levy has grown from, 36 to 39 or whatever it was. That one's grown, so we are growing a little bit at a time.
And we have other
And the
systems,
RTA
we have other
ridership has
systems that
grown.
are keeping the numbers even down. Without these
Yeah.
other systems, we would be the highest ever. Without having WRTA, without having the Comfort Caravan extra grant that they got, you know, there's a lot of different systems in place that have reduced our ridership from what it really could be.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn?
Second,
Thank you.
Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Thank you very much.